In this lesson, we'll be working on the project 14D. We've learned how to mat out the garbage, and we're ready to pull our first key. Go to the Effects tab, Video Filters, and double-click the key bin. And drag the tab in with the rest. Before using a keying filter, it's absolutely essential to apply color smoothing. And if you want your keys to look good, you need to understand why. We spend most of our time on computers thinking in terms of red, green, and blue. Component digital video thinks in terms of luma and chroma. Specifically, one component of luma and two of chroma, referred to as YCBCR. Because the human eye is more sensitive to changes in brightness than changes in color, the chroma components can be more compressed than the luma, without losing much in terms of perceived image quality. The amount of compression, or chroma subsampling, is expressed as a ratio. In YCBCR, the ideal is 4:4:4, uncompressed color. But most of the video we work with is 4:2:2, or 4:1:1, which means the color information is cut in half each time the chroma numbers drop. Normally, we're not aware of any of this. That is, unless we're trying to pull a key. When you're trying to key off a color, and some of that color information has been removed, the result is a substandard key, which you can see in this magnified image of a buster key. The green screen has been successfully removed, but look at the edges. Clean edges are what make or break a believable composite. The aliasing or jaggy edges you see are a direct result of chroma subsampling. Now look closely at the edges with color smoothing applied. Color smoothing removes the jaggies and tries to replace the missing color information. But it's not enough to apply color smoothing. You also have to know which kind. Final Cut provides smoothing filters for 4:2:2 and 4:1:1. Apply the wrong one, and it has no effect. If, for example, you're working with DV or DVC Pro, use the 4:1:1 smoothing. If you're working with DVC Pro 50 or DVC Pro HD, use the 4:2:2 smoothing. There are dozens of camera formats out there, so if you're not sure which smoothing filter to use, either do a bit of internet research or just test both filters on your keyed footage to see which works best. And remember, the smoothing filter has to be applied first, and it must remain at the top in your Filters tab. If neither flavor of smoothing removes the jaggies, then you might be working with 4:2:0 subsampling, used in HDV, PAL-DV, and Sony EX. Final Cut doesn't provide a 4:2:0 smoothing filter, so you'll have to find a third-party solution. For this clip, we'll apply basic 4:2:2 smoothing. And be sure to keep it on top of the stack as we build the key. In the key bin, you might be tempted by very logical-sounding names like blue and green screen or color key, but don't bother. And you can ignore the chroma keyer as well. It offers a great deal of control, but it's not worth the effort, and you have to use it in conjunction with additional filters for an acceptable result. Just go straight to Primat RT and drop it on the clip. For backing color, click the eyedropper and sample the green background. Now the main trick with this filter is finding the right balance between noise removal and matte density, and tiny adjustments make all the difference. To start, set noise removal to 0, and start playing with matte density. Move it left until you start seeing gray appear on Buster's platform. If it lights up a lot, back it off to the right, and leave it around 0.15. You might still see a little gray on the platform, but nothing too hot. Now, start bumping the noise removal up slowly. The gray in the platform should disappear almost completely when you reach 0.05. If Buster looks a little redder than he should, it's because of the spill suppressor. If you drop it down a bit, you'll see that his white coat is catching green reflections from the background. A spill suppressor compensates for this by shifting the hue in the opposite direction on the color wheel. To negate the green, it adds magenta, as you'll see if you go too far to the right. Rock it back and forth until it looks neutral. 0.23 worked for me. Change the filter's output type to matte, and we can see that it's a pretty solid key. There's a little noise in the haunches and tail. Ideally, it should be solid white, but we're going to reduce the scale of the clip so it shouldn't be an issue. Click back to Processed Foreground. Select the clip in the timeline and hit Option up arrow to move it up one track. From the browser, drag the background image JPEG to the track below. Line it up and trim the end. Now scrub through the clip. Let's see if we can make it a little more realistic by having him interact with the background. Double-click the background image, and in the Motion tab, change the scale to 83%, and set the center coordinates to 0 for X and 53 for Y. Double-click the Buster clip, and reduce scale to 38%. Park the playhead on one of the final frames where he's sitting, and in the canvas, position him on top of this rock. Give it a render, back it up, and play. It's a little hyper-real because the background is a still, but the key is acceptable, and we could make it even more convincing by color correcting the clips to make them look more of the same world. And color correction is what we'll explore in the next chapter.